solid activity, 10 satellites a year or what have you in geosynchronous orbit. And we're very proud to be a part of that in our merchant supplier business, to be able to bring satellite subsystems to the geo satellite manufacturers in the market, while connecting to the very explosive growth in the NGSO market as folks want to build constellations in MEO and LEO for that market. As a result of those activities, it's cool to be able to participate in the multi-orbit solutions that are starting to emerge and that people are starting to talk about in the market. And so I think that as we go through the day today, and certainly through this lunch and through the week, the notion of multi-orbit solutions and how we can bring the capacity in the different orbits to space-based network capability for people will be a theme that we'll all participate in conversations in. But for us, Aurora is pretty cool. So Aurora, being our digital satellite product primarily for NGSO constellations, gives us all kinds of new opportunity and causes a number of business transformations that we're currently living through, just like many of you are living through. For us, having a standard digital satellite product takes us from the world of analog to digital, obviously. And the ability to now have software-defined satellites, dynamic beamforming, regenerative onboard processing, so that we can dramatically decrease the cost of a satellite and dramatically increase the efficiency of satellite operators who get the absolute most out of their satellite and dramatically drive down the cost per bit of providing communication services to their customers. So the transition from analog to digital is a big deal and is the foundation of everything that's going on for us at the moment. As we do that, we go from a few to many, for sure. A history where you had work cells in your manufacturing environments, where you're creating a few really cool, almost artistic at times, pieces of work to be able to go on a exquisite satellite, to be now producing products, many of them, in high volume manufacturing in these environments. It's cool to make new friends. It's cool to make friends that have produced cars or recreational vehicles for a living and know how to do high volume manufacturing and bring all that knowledge into satellites as we get into the business now of producing many into the dozens and into the hundreds as we go forward into the future. As we do that, our relationships change. It's really cool, especially with many of us in the room, transitioning from working with suppliers to working with partners. The conversation around, I want to buy a few, to I need to buy dozens or hundreds from someone, and be able to have a supplier turned into partner relationship, really, so that our supply chain can scale with us in the market. A number of the conversations that occur now are these very high volume, more partnerish conversations. We've got onto this a little bit ourselves with Aurora. We did a small acquisition last year. We acquired the digital payload group from SatixFy and brought that group of expertise into our company so that we could enhance that, which then enhanced our relationship with SatixFy as a chip provider into a more intense partnership kind of a level as we move forward with the digital satellite product into the market. That's been going very well. So these changes are very interesting and very cool to see as we transform our business into this new mode of operation. And we're very excited to be able to bring Aurora to the market as our digital satellite product to share with you and with our customers as we go forward into the future. Thanks for the chance to make a few remarks. I hope you enjoy your lunch and the wise words from Intelsat that will come next. Thanks a lot.
Thank you to our sponsor, MDA Space. And now, our Luncheon Fireside Chat, moderated by Via Satellite's Senior Managing Editor, Rachel Jewett.
I went a little bit fast.
Good afternoon. I am here with Intelsat CEO Dave Wajsgras for a fireside chat. Before we get started, I know you all will have questions for Dave, so we are using Slido for questions this year. Please scan the QR code on the screens to submit your questions, and we'll be happy to take those later. David, it's great to be here with you on the first day of Satellite.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you. It's a lot of people to answer questions from, so I think we'll be here for a couple of days, so everybody get comfortable. Okay.
So this is a really interesting time for Intelsat. The company is evolving from a bandwidth supplier to an end-to-end connectivity provider, growing business in in-flight connectivity, and as you said at the company's Investor Day in November, Intelsat's in the best financial position it has been in for a long time. So we've got a lot to talk about. So to get started, this year is Intelsat's 60th anniversary. What an awesome milestone. David, can you talk about the company's heritage in satellite communications and how you're evolving the brand in present day?
Yeah, so we are officially a senior citizen. That's a joke, if anybody listening out there, okay. So we are 60 years old this year. We were founded in, don't worry, this is going to be a very short walk through history. It won't take that long. So we were founded in 1964. As an IGO, an intergovernmental organization. 37 years later, 2001, we went private. And between 2001 and even today, we've made a number of important acquisitions and combinations. In 2006, we essentially merged with PanAmSat. And at that point, we were a SATCOMs company distributing for networks and data, as they call it in Europe, networks, as well as media, those two being the two foundational industries that we served. In 2013, we became a public company. And that's always interesting when you become a public company, for the first time, and there's a lot of new things to consider. One of which, importantly, is your balance sheet, and we ended up accumulating, for different reasons, different fundamental business reasons, a lot of debt, and ended up in 2020 going through a financial reorganization, AKA a Chapter 11. We emerged in 2022, but during those 2 years, we did something that I thought was very interesting and hadn't seen before. We acquired a company, GoGo, which is now our commercial aviation Wi-Fi provider, and one of the largest services that we provide in the world. And in 2022, we emerged with a new, very healthy balance sheet and a company that was very strong in a lot of ways. I was surprised. That's when I joined. I joined in April of 22, and I found it quite interesting. There was still a very strong culture in the company. The technology had continued to advance, albeit at the pace not at the pace it needed to because of the financial constraints, but there was very, very good direction on where we need to take the company. So when I came in, we did a deeper dive on the strategy, we pivoted, and today, broadly speaking, we are operating quite well in all of our different verticals. So again, historically, we were sort of a media and networks company. Today, we focus on government applications, both in the US and around the world. What we call mobility, which includes commercial aviation, land mobility, business aviation, and commercial maritime. Then, of course, networks and media. And all of those businesses today are performing quite well. So that's the history lesson. That's where we are, okay?
So one of the things you've talked about is Intelsat shifting from just a capacity provider to an end-to-end solutions provider. What does that look like in practice? Like how is Intelsat adapting its business in that way?
Yeah, so one of the things, again, when I had joined that we had looked at in a very detailed way was the markets that we could serve. And if you look at being purely a bandwidth provider, that overall addressable market is about, say, $12 to $14 billion. So the team said, look, how do we basically broaden our offerings and expand our addressable market, grow the company and generate value, right, for all of our stakeholders? So one of the key paths that we went down was to begin to offer managed services. When we had acquired GoGo, we basically also bought expertise in managed services. And we took those core competencies and we expanded them across all of our different product offerings, all of the different industries, verticals that we serve. So we manage services, we do the engineering and we do the integration and installment of equipment. We obviously provide all of the monitoring from our global, basically our global network of NOCs, or network operating systems, and we provide 24/7 customer service globally. So all of that is encompassed with managed services. And what we're seeing today is it's a differentiator for Intelsat. We're winning a lot of new business because of our offering. And I think most importantly is the feedback that we're getting from customers. And this is not just the Intelsat commercial, this is from customer surveys. We perform these services better than anybody else in the industry. And it's one of the reasons why we are growing our different businesses, across the company.
So would you say that transformation has taken place and you are now the solutions provider, or you're on that path?
Well, today we're more advanced in some verticals than others.
Okay.
I would say we offer at some level, it's more nascent in some of the industries that we serve than others, but we do have managed service capabilities across all of our different customer groups. Again, it's more advanced, for example, in commercial aviation than it is in networks, although we do have a number of programs and contracts in our networks business.
Okay, so I want to talk about commercial aviation. So as you said, Intelsat acquired the GoGo commercial aviation business in 2020, and that has really paid off. You all have won contracts with American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, Air Canada. How do you plan to keep growing the in-flight connectivity business?
Okay, that's a great question, because that is one of the top 2 growth platforms for the company. So it's very competitive, as I think almost everyone understands. And there's a lot of very strong companies, very, I would say interesting companies, strong companies that are offering different types of services, different technologies, different capabilities, all trying to do the same thing: capture new share in a market that is expanding pretty substantially. 15 to 20% looks like the multi-year CAGR. For us, we are going at that market in 2 ways. One is we're the only company today in the industry that has a multi-orbit offering, meaning from both the GEO arc, as well as working closely with OneWeb and we offer, through OneWeb, we offer LEO. So we go to customers. We won some big contracts recently through our multi-orbit offering. In fact, in the 4th quarter of last year, we won more business through our multi-orbit offering than we did the prior 3 years combined with a single orbit offering. And again, there's a few different reasons for that, but the primary one is having the multi-orbit capabilities. So that's kind of part 1. In part 2, and again, we try to differentiate ourselves here because of our very long history in that sector. We're very good at understanding customers, people who fly on planes. Those are the ultimate customers, right? what they're looking for and what they need. And then we work with major airlines to set up very sophisticated and structured SLAs, service level agreements. So we can segment, even by cabin, what the pricing options and the structure of the Wi-Fi service might look like. So we think those two give us a good position to grow that business over time.
Okay. What's the timeline on the multi-orbit with OneWeb? Like, is that in service today on planes? When will that be operational?
Yeah, so OneWeb's constellation is flying today, and they're rolling it out this year. We will be installing our ESA antennas in the back half of this year, and these will be operable toward the end of 2024.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And then, you know, as you said,
let me mention one thing. We've done a number of test flights.
Okay.
With all of these customers that you mentioned, plus many others. We have a test bed that we take customers, they fly on the test bed, they look at our multi-orbit offerings, again, which is GEO and LEO. And whether they're technical people, purchasing people, business people, I will say across the board, they're very, very impressed with what they see and how the Wi-Fi can actually function in, let's call it, congested areas and non-congested areas. And by the way, that's important because that, again, is the differentiator. Ultimately, it's the customer experience on these planes that will drive new business, and the better that customer experience is, the more business we're actually going to get over time. And so that's how everything ties together there.
So, you know, this is a really competitive market. Like Starlink is getting planes now, Viasat has had, even, you know, Hughes got the Delta deal recently. Mm-hmm. So you're confident that Intelsat can keep winning and growing amid all the competition?
Yeah, these are all good companies, and every company has a strategy. We believe at Intelsat that ours is a winning strategy. It doesn't mean we're going to win 100% of the market. You know, 95% would be nice, but maybe not 100%. But seriously, it's a big market. Different customers are looking for different things. We've concluded that a disproportionate percentage of the addressable market will migrate, whether it's near term or medium term, to the multi-orbit offering, and that's why we think we're well positioned there.
Okay. Yeah. So beyond in-flight connectivity, what other verticals do you see the most growth potential in for Intelsat?
Yeah, so certainly government.
Okay.
Okay, we have a very broad offering, including managed services, with our government business, including hosted payloads with our government business, obviously the traditional bandwidth, and managed services. So I might have said that twice, okay? I love managed services. But, you know, so our government business, again, has a broad offering of solutions to government customers, principally military, but also civilian agencies. You know, the governments typically, this is not late-breaking news, typically don't move at breakneck speed. So the things that we are now offering today have been talked about for a number of years, but it genuinely seems to be converging given mission needs and requirements around the world. So by way of example, we just won a program we call SAMS, which is Satellite as a Managed Service with the Army. It's a pilot program today, but we are proving out our ability to utilize commercial satellites, commercial networks, sort of real time to support mission requirements anywhere in the world, anytime. And we feel that, you know, we're so far so good, you know, sort of knock on wood, as this thing plays out, we feel there's some real opportunities for us more broadly in the military. You know, we also support the British military with telemedicine, which was interesting. They needed, without getting into a lot of things that some people might not be all that interested in, you know, these militaries are deployed around the world. In a lot of cases, they need to perform medical procedures on a real-time basis, depending on what's going on. We approach them with a solution, which we call FlexMove, And again, it's a terminal that works well in basically any part of the world, connected to our constellation, and they're able to perform sometimes pretty complex surgeries right in the field as a result of the networks that we put in place.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So government and land mobility as part of government, that's the main.
Yeah, well, and land mobility is different. So think of land mobility as agriculture, mining, construction. We have a very healthy pipeline in land mobility. I would say that's a relatively new market. And as we speak, we're in, I don't want to hit a tripwire here, but we're in very detailed discussions with a number of blue chip OEMs around the world. We have an ongoing pilot program. We are getting ready to start others. And we think that land mobility broadly is going to be an important market for Intelsat down the road.
Okay, I'll stay tuned for that. So as you know, you talked about cutting the debt levels, and Intelsat is in the best financial position it's been in a long time. So what are you thinking about from an investment perspective?
What are we looking? Okay, so that's a great question. So let me just kind of put this in perspective. So again, I'll keep this very high level. We started out in 2023 with about $6 billion in debt. We ended 2023 with about $3 billion in debt and about $2.3 billion in cash. So we were down at a net debt level, what you call a net debt level, of $1.7 billion, which is quite a change. First of all, if you look back just a few years, but certainly throughout 23. And we do see over the next 3 years, positive cash flow, both as a result of the balance of the C-band process that we went through, as well as generated by operations. Now, that gives us a lot of flexibility in how we think about investing. There's some, we call it sort of capital deployment as a general statement. We're very focused on new space companies. We're very focused on opening up new channels to market, new customers, new geographies that we aren't in today. And we continue to pursue partnerships, which when you enter into partnerships, sometimes there'll be, you'll have to invest into those partnerships as well. Today, we are looking at terminals are key to, obviously, to all of these networks. We are invested with 2 very impressive terminal companies. One is called High Sky, and the other is called Greener Wave, both slightly different approaches. But we're looking at having an offering of terminals that will support our strategy. So everything from very low-cost, ruggedized terminals to very high-end terminals that maybe perform other missions, think aviation, for example, okay? We're invested with those companies. I probably skipped over that. We're invested in those companies, and our engineering teams are working closely together on those roadmaps. There's another company which I spoke about before called Aleria. Aleria is a very impressive company. They have developed and have fielded a very high-end, what I call a space orchestration platform, which is currently being used by the US government in various ways. They are also, so that's already fielded. They are developing an optical space-to-ground laser transmission system, which we're very excited about because going forward, that could be a real game changer, moving to laser comms. Today, the code's been broken by by all the very smart technical people on laser comms in space, but space to ground is more difficult, and they're working on that, and we think that could be a real game changer as well.
Okay. You've also talked about Intelsat looking at a potential investment in a medium Earth orbit constellation. So do you have any updates on that? Where is Intelsat at in that decision process?
So we will be making a decision and announcing our decision sometime before the end of the second quarter. We are continuing to press down on the use cases, which continue to support the thesis that this would be a strong investment. What's interesting is over the last number of months, we've had many conversations with senior people in the government, again, primarily on, say, the military side, to include Space Force and other organizations that would be interested. And to a person, they are quite interested in what we are contemplating with a MEO constellation and how they could potentially be part of that equation. So there's multiple different types of benefits that could come out of this: military communications, commercial communications, and then some very advanced capabilities. Think edge processing or cloud in the sky. And there's others. I don't want to go into all of it now, but we will hopefully in the next month or two. And we have other parties, customers and other parties that are also interested in what we're doing that may want to also support the financial structure on how this rolls out.
Okay.
So we're excited about it, and we'll see. We're not there yet. I'm not making the announcement because there's still some things we need to cover off.
Yeah, all right, so no news today, but that was a good update.
It's close to news.
Thank you. So, this has been a great conversation so far. I do want to get a couple of audience questions. Thank you for those who have submitted. We have the QR code on the screen if you would still like to submit your question. So we were just talking about MEO, and we also talked earlier about working with OneWeb for LEO. So can you kind of sum up Intelsat's multi-orbit strategy?
Yeah, so today we have a multi-orbit offering through our partnership with the Intelsat group, primarily and obviously OneWeb. And we see that as again, as a differentiator for Intelsat, broadly speaking. We also see the benefits today of a potential to move forward with the MEO constellation that we've now been talking about for a while. And if you roll the reel forward, we can see a world for Intelsat where we are essentially operating in all three orbits and serving customer needs and requirements more effectively than any other satellite operations company in the world. So that's a path. You're asking me, I'm doing this kind of right off the top of my head, but that's the vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then there's a question about direct to handset connectivity. So do you see Intelsat getting into that market at all? Kind of like the satellite to cell. That's such a hot topic right now.
Yeah, that is definitely a hot topic. We've looked at it. The market's substantial. It's 20 billion plus over, say, the next 5 to 10 years or so. It's not going to kind of happen overnight on a global basis. A lot of the technology is, I would say, still being developed, but I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. It's still being developed, but it's fairly advanced, as I think everybody in here would understand. The regulatory regimes are starting to catch up. The FCC just came out with a ruling. I think that's a term. I'm sure Michelle will correct me, but let's say it's a ruling. It's certainly a position that they took, which I think will benefit, and we're very supportive of that. But again, if you're looking at this from a global basis, there's other regulatory regimes that need to maybe think about this a little bit differently. So for Intelsat, we are very close, okay, and I don't mean months, but we're very close to investing with a technology company that has proven out this capability, has very strong more than just relationships, very strong agreements with a number of very large MNOs, that everybody would know who they are, global MNOs. We've been talking to them for a little while now. We're going to not only invest with them, but we're going to work on further developing a direct-to-handset using our spectrum holdings, and we think that will give us a very unique position in this growing market.
Okay, well, thank you to the audience member for that question. So we'll stay tuned for more news on that.
Okay.
On consolidation, so it was big news last year when Intelsat and SES decided not to merge. You've talked in general in favor of industry consolidation. Do you think there will be more consolidation in the industry, and could Intelsat be a part of that?
So I don't think the consolidation that's taken place already is the end of it. I think there is more to come. Looking down the road, I think today, I'm going to call them the companies with scale. Some people call them the legacy companies. So I'll call them the companies with scale. I think there'll be less companies with scale, okay, than there is today, if you, again, looking down the road. A lot of new space companies are being formed or are out there already, very successful. They could be brought into consolidations or mergers. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, for the industry to advance the pace of capability and technology offerings. I think a lot of that will be helped through consolidation. For Intelsat, we're focused on bringing these capabilities to market in the most efficient way we can. If the opportunity were to come up for us to combine with another company, whether it's a new space company or a scale company or who knows, I mean, broadly, we would certainly consider that. So everything is really on the table. It's an exciting industry. A lot of changes are taking place. I think when you look at the industry dynamics, consolidation is certainly a big part of it.
Yeah, thank you for addressing that.
Sure.
There was a question here about you mentioned your hosted payload business. I think that you all worked with NASA last year on a hosted payload.
On the Tempo payload.
Yeah, can you give us just a brief more information about the hosted payload?
It's basically, in my prior life, I would have called it kind of a weather satellite, but that's a little bit of a misnomer. What that sensor does for NASA is detect pollution levels at different times around the world and feeds back information that otherwise wouldn't have been available. So think of like during rush hours in certain part of the world, or think, during like man-made disasters, what could possibly happen, what happens to pollution levels. And once you understand that and how those are formed and the magnitude, then the other group of really smart scientists say, okay, well, this is the way, if we can get in front of these things, that we can address them. So it's really an environmental type of payload that NASA put up on one of our satellites.
But do you see other potential for more deals like that?
We do, both with, like I said, civilian agencies, science, NASA being one of them. We are talking to some civilian agencies, which I can't talk about right now, about other hosted payload opportunities, as well as for military communications. We've been doing this for quite a while with the Australian Defence Force, and there are some other opportunities here in the US and also in Western Europe.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, David. It's been really great talking to you today.
Yeah.
And thank you all for the questions. I would like to remind everyone that voting is still open for the VIA Satellite Executive and Technology of the Year Awards for 2023. Voting is open until noon tomorrow. You can vote at viasatellite.com/vote. So please make your voice heard on that. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your week here at Satellite. Thanks for being here.
Okay. All right, thank you.